Hello friends, Father Scott Vanderveer here. The snowstorm that we had this past week caused Catholic Schools Week to get interrupted by 2 snow days. So we are continuing the celebration this week of our glorious and beautiful St. Mary's St. Alphonsus Regional Catholic School. And I'm here today in the view from my kitchen that looks out at that building. Can you believe it? Talk about a box seat for a beautiful display that happens every day, watching those kids go into the building, their parents dropping them off, bringing them, many of them holding mittened hands as they come in. And there's the principal, Mrs. Balmer, to greet them at the door as they go in, get checked in for the day, get their coats and boots off, smooth out their uniforms, and then go to the Great Hall for their big morning prayer session. Sometimes then they'll come over to the church for Mass. That's what they do on Mondays, big celebration day of Mass in the church. And one of the things that happens there each Monday is something that I think highlights the magic of SMSA in a very particular way. And it shows this paradox that happens in this Catholic school that is a very important thing for parents or those who have young people in their life to know about. What happens on Mondays when there's Mass is the 8th graders come in marching in a line with little kindergartners right by their side. At SMSA, our kindergarten students and our 8th grade students are paired up for a guardian angel type relationship where the little kids get to idolize the older kids and the older kids get to develop those skills of nurturing and protection and role modeling that are so important in building a mature life that is marked by nobility and character. So when you see these children sitting there, when you see the 8th graders helping the kids with their masks or reminding them to sit still or holding the program or the hymnal for them so that they know where they are in the session, it's so touching and uplifting. Often a Monday morning doldrum can be turned around like that when you see those kids together. I have to say that one of the things that as a former middle school teacher I know pretty firsthand is that middle school is not usually a time where students experience leadership. In most middle school situations, the kids are aiming at being like their much older high school role models. But often, and I say this with love as a former high school teacher too, high school students don't always make the best role models for middle school students, especially because there's a lot of developmental growth that happens between middle school and high school. So something that's developmentally appropriate for a high schooler is actually a very bad thing for a middle schooler to be involved in. That means that when you're in a school where the middle schoolers are yearning to keep up with the high school students, you've got a dynamic that is not bringing out the best in either. The high school students are, you know this from your own years in high school, they're not at a developmental stage where they want to be role models for younger kids. They'd much rather introduce them to cool but maybe dangerous or immoral things that would be fun and give them a sense of authority and agency. That's not what we want for our high school students, and it's not what we want for our middle schoolers. It introduces them at a dangerously early stage of development to things that they shouldn't be involved in at all. So think about how this model differs. Kids in middle school who are tempted, just developmentally from where they are in their journey, to be followers by nature. Those kids who are tempted to be followers are then welcomed into, invited to instead be leaders, to instead be young people who live their life aware that young eyes are watching them, as people who, instead of going through that phase of life where, let's face it, middle school, awkward, confusing, just filled with all sorts of angst, they get to take their mind off of that while they consider how far they've come since they were 5 or 6 or 7 years old. And they get to be true role models, true leaders in their school setting. One of the things that I have noticed from working in Catholic education for almost 10 years and now being a pastor with a Catholic school is that Catholic schools, perhaps as one of their very best of all gifts, elongate children's childhood. It elongates the childhood that you have. So while a child is getting an academically rigorous course of study, while they are managing to learn at a rate that is markedly above what is true in other school settings, according to a lot of longitudinal studies that we've done. Although they have excellent academics, they are allowed to preserve an innocence that is rare. If you've seen my earlier videos, you know we're talking about a place where we don't cheer the mistakes of others in a basketball game. We don't challenge the calls made by legitimate authorities. We nurture that sense that an unfriendly rivalry hurts the school's reputation. The idea that we would rather suffer an unfair loss than to gain a reputation that is unflattering. We see that that value is taught there. We also see that we have a school that has no locks on the lockers because they're not needed, because the students are taught that respect for other people's property and following the 10 Commandments is an understood bedrock of what we do there. So we have that dynamic as well. When you have that kind of a safe environment where there's no locks, where the rules in the gym are as I've described them, it means that girls can have pigtails all the way up till 8th grade. They can be young girls. They don't have to be prematurely trying to be something they're not. They're allowed to be with other students that are in a phase of life that is precious and fleeting. Many students experience puberty in middle school, but others don't experience it until the end of middle school or beyond. And so it allows there to be a setting that is, in its nature, prepubescent, a place of childhood, so that our kids, as they go into 6th and 7th and 8th grade, they are paradoxically better prepared than any other student would be for academics because of our teacher-student ratio. But also, they're really well prepared for managing leadership roles because of the way that they are interacting with the younger kids. But at the very same time, they are able to live in an elementary school environment where the boys are not trying to be teenage young men prematurely, they're boys. And where the girls are not trying to necessarily follow what the juniors and seniors in high school are doing, they're girls. It provides a beautiful environment for kids to have leadership taught early, but childhood elongated. Isn't that a miracle? SMSA is not only the lone Catholic school in this entire region, from Saratoga to Ticonderoga, the only Catholic school. But in addition, it is an academy that is the only private school option in that same region. Would you like to consider spreading the word about the magic that goes on at SMSA? You won't be giving a false bill of goods, I promise you that, because this school truly is a marvel and a gift, and we need to nurture it, celebrate it, protect it, endow it, and share it with everyone. Happy continuation of Catholic Schools Week. God bless you all.